Alright everyone, I'm going to be making this video to briefly explain how I became a law enforcement officer within the state of Mayflower within roughly 3 months. For everyone new coming into this community, I want to show you that even if you have no previous roast day experience, you can still make it where you want to be. At this point in time, I've become an instructor in the MAA, first lieutenant for the Mayflower National Guard, a senior employee of the Mayflower Public Broadcasting Service, and a deputy within the Clark County Sheriff's Office. Previously, I've never really been in the state of Mayflower. I joined, like I said, about 3 months ago with basically no experience within this community. Now, firstly, you need to make sure that you have citizenship on your primary account within the group. I'm going to link the group in the description. Now, people say this is one of the hardest parts as many accounts do get flagged as alts. If this does happen to you, there are steps that you can take. So first, make sure that you are using the account that you regularly use. Make sure it's not an alt account. They're not going to accept an alt. Just get that out of your mind. Now, next, you need to make sure that you play this account regularly, have items, have friends, have badges, have favorited games, everything of the sort. Just make sure that this account shows to them that this is your main account. Now, if you are still denied residency, there is a form to fill out, which I could also link in the bio, where you could request a review of your account, which they will then go back and take a closer look to decide if you are an alt or not, and if you can get residency. Next, you will need to get into LETI. LETI, also known as the Law Enforcement Training Institute, is the key to getting into any law enforcement occupation within this community. Without it, you cannot join any department or anything of law enforcement. However, there are a few things that you need to understand when it comes to LETI. Firstly, the requirements prior to this consist of a clean background in all regards. This does not include criminal records. Now, recently they did change criminal records where you cannot be denied specifically for this. However, I still recommend that if you're going to do crime, do it on alt if you want your main account to do LETI. Next, you need to make sure that you are not a menace to society and show yourself as a bad community member, as you can be denied for this. I've seen people be denied for this. This is an actual thing. Please treat people with respect, especially in public Discord channels of the state of Mayflower. I don't know what's wrong with some of you people trying to get into LETI. Now we're going to move on to something that I know a lot of you hate. This is going to be the application process. Honestly, as someone who has passed LETI this last class, the application is not that difficult. As long as you spend more than 30 minutes doing it, you will be fine and you will most likely pass. I honestly recommend at least 3 paragraphs per question. Now that may seem like a lot, but there aren't that many questions. My favorite technique for being able to reach this amount of paragraphs is writing at least 1 sentence per question and then fleshing that sentence into an entire paragraph. Do this about 3 times per question and you'll have 3 paragraphs. It's really not that difficult. You just have to sit down and get it done. You have about a week to be able to fill out this application and submit it. So spend the time, spend the effort, and you'll be able to get it done. Other than that, if you really want it, you can get it without a problem. That's with anything within this community. Just put in the time, put in the effort, and you'll be able to do it. Something else I like to talk about are the opportunities outside of LETI, which can help increase your chances of getting into LETI and also future departments within this community. This is how I started, and honestly, I recommend anybody else to start this way. This is the Mayflower National Guard. Joining the Guard is one of the best decisions I made for joining this community, as it allowed me to learn the game, the mechanics, the map, and was to be expected within this community without being too difficult to understand. On top of that, it gives you higher priority within the application process of LETI, which means if me and this other person are applying for LETI and I'm in the Guard and he isn't, I will be chosen over him. If we have the same quality of application, I will be chosen. Another opportunity I'd like to talk about is the Clark County Sheriff's Office Correction Program. This is a great program. Not only do you not need a LETI cert, but it gives you the priority within the roster of the next LETI class, as did the Mayflower National Guard. This is a great way to get your foot into the door of a highly esteemed law enforcement department, as when you get your LETI certification, you could transfer from corrections to the next recruit intake without having to apply. Even if you do not get your LETI certification though, you could ride along with deputies and act as a law enforcement officer without the ability to make arrests or citations. Nonetheless, this is a great program, and even though they hire a bit less than the National Guard, I would highly recommend joining this, as it gets you connections and great experience and a clear path into the department down the road. Now that you've joined these organizations and have been accepted into the LETI class, it is time to get to work. LETI is not easy, but it's also not impossible. My main takeaways from LETI is that you need to be able to put time and effort into it. took me roughly 3 hours each exam in order to feel as though I did enough to pass. This may have been overkill, but I did not want to fail, as last time I did fail, I was about 13 and failed the first phase, and I wanted to pass it this time. So make sure that you take your time, put in the effort, and stay out of trouble, as this can get you removed from the class. Honestly though, LETI is very considerate when it comes to issues of time, as they host within any time zone, time frame, and even if you do fall behind, you could request extensions. Overall, LETI is something that you really need to want in order to get through it, as it takes some time, but it will open many doors for you after you pass. Finally, you have passed and gained your LETI certification. Usually after the class ends, all the departments open their doors for employment. Now, if you are in the corrections program, you could join the intake without applying, as long as you have no record within the program already. Otherwise, you will need to apply. The main departments you will want to apply to consist of the Clark County Sheriff's Office, Mayflower State Police, Merced Police Department, and City of Lander Police Department. All of these have their perks, depending on what you are interested in. If you enjoy the county, southern aesthetic, and warrant enforcement, then I'd suggest the Sheriff's Office. If you enjoy the highway, high-speed chases, and commercial vehicle enforcement, I recommend the State Police, though both of these are highly sought after and result in many new LETI graduates being turned away. Therefore, I honestly suggest applying for municipal departments to get your feet wet, such as the Merced Police Department if you enjoy the southern town of Merced. Otherwise, I'd recommend the City of Lander Police Department if you enjoy the vast skyscrapers and busy city. However, I still have not talked about secondary departments. There are a few out there, with some of them coming to mind, such as the Natural Resource Officer Program of the Parks and Wildlife, the Mayflower Transit Police, Military Police, and the Port Authority Police, even though that last one I can't figure out if it's a primary or secondary department. Let me explain what that means though. The primary department, you can only be employed in one of those, while secondary, you could have a secondary law enforcement job. So, I could be within CCSO and the Mayflower Transit Police without causing any issues. However, I cannot be in the CCSO and MSP. Once you pass your application and have joined your departments, all you need to do is finish the department's academy. These usually are not very hard or long, as you learned almost everything you need within LETI. But that's it when it comes to becoming a law enforcement officer within the state of Mayflower, Clark County. If I missed anything, make sure to let me know in the comments. But besides that, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.